Well, I guess we are ready to start. So hello everybody and welcome to the App Challenge Finals. Yes. It's really hard to believe, but this is the 5th year we've done this, and when we started it 5 years ago, it just sort of germinated as an idea in IT services, and we were lucky enough to suck in some very willing and exciting partners to help us do it, and it's taken on a life of its own. So we are very excited to be able to do this for the 5th year in a row, and we look forward to continuing to do it in the years to come. A word about our very exciting partners. So these are the sponsors of the App Challenge, the UChicago App Challenge, and I want to say that being a sponsor doesn't really begin to describe the amount of collaboration and participation that everybody has put into this effort. It's really, it's really exciting to see the energy behind it, and for us in IT services, one of the main benefits of doing this over the 5 years has been to build relationships with all the people we work with from these units. So please give a round of applause for the Polsky Center, Chicago Innovation Exchange, UChicago Tech, and IT Services for sponsoring this effort. So I think you all know the premise here, but here it is. We started this as a mobile app challenge, but a couple years ago we realized that mobile is just sort of the way people do business these days, and it's not something different than anything else. And what's really important here are the ideas people come up with and the creative energy and the amount of work they put into getting here. So this is the premise, and it goes from across the university. It is, of course, this is the culmination of a year-long effort with literally hundreds of participants. We had 73 teams that submitted in the fall. In the winter, we selected 23 semifinalists. We had 20 experts helping those semifinalists refine their ideas, prepare their pitches, and that led to the selection of the 3 finalists we're here to look at today. I'd like to introduce the judges. We continue to get great people willing to help us judge these contests, and this year is really sort of the cream of the crop. So please give a warm round of thanks to Susan Levine, Sharon, Markman, and Dave Ribbens. I guaranteed them all they would have as much fun as any of us in this process, so it's up to all of you to make that happen. And then I'd like to thank the contributors from the sponsoring organizations who really put their time, their sweat, their blood into making this happen. So Fritz Anderson, Emily Baker, Rose Pizzuti-Dyer, William Eichert, Jose Hernandez, Brenda Janish, Tom Campari, Claire Micklin, Chris Rydell, Jessica Sandy, Tommy Thomas, Tom Ancona, Star Marcello, Megan Kinney, Christy Frazier, Eric Ginsberg, Cole Johnson, Gorana Kolar, and Steph Avalos Block. Please thank them. So we have 3 finalists today. Really exciting ideas that have come a long way in the last 9 months. Refer Me, VidVelocity, and Engage, and I think you've read a little bit about them, and we'll get to see them in action in just a few minutes here. The prototypes that you're going to see today were coded with the help of our interns, Alex Clark, Lingwei Cheng, Abi Diora, Evan Bernstein, and Eric Warheim. So thanks to our interns for really taking this on. I just as an aside, just before I came over here, I saw one of our previous year interns who happened to just sort of breeze through our office today for the first time in a year or so. And he's now working as an iOS coder for Facebook, and he is just really pumped about being there. And it's at least partly due to his experience in doing this work that got him there. So the timing for today is we will follow up with our entrants one-on-one, and after this session, there will be an innovation showcase for the new venture challenge in the Winter Garden, and there's always lots of good goodies there. And then at approximately 4:49, the winner of the app challenge will be announced just before the winner of the other new venture challenge prizes. So I hope you can all stick around for that. You know, when we started this 5 years ago, I think we were way out ahead of a curve, or at least a bit out ahead of a curve. And in that 5-year time frame, there has grown up a whole innovation ecosystem around the University of Chicago, and some of which you see reflected in our partners this year. But really, there's just a whole focus on innovation at this university that really wasn't there when we started. And we've been doing it 5 years. When we started, there were really limited opportunities for faculty and staff and students to get their ideas built. And now there are other opportunities, and here's a few of the organizations that are involved in presenting those opportunities. So we've been thinking this year about how do we structure the app challenge going forward that allows us to take, in a way that allows us to take advantage of all of this activity that's going on and doesn't appear to be a standalone thing. And we recognize that there are lots of good ideas that show up in all these efforts across the entire year. It doesn't just have to be solicited in the fall. So we're going to try next year, we are going to try rolling quarterly deadlines, and where we'll take ideas as they come to us in the quarter and build as many of them as we possibly can. And we will still have a grand judging and a winner at the end of the year. So that's the plan for next year, and I hope lots of you will continue to be interested in it, and I'm sure we'll get lots of great ideas. We plan to have 3 categories of ideas. These are the categories we're talking about, and Cornelia will explain them at some point, but basically they have to do with how far along your thinking and your actual work is when you start in on the process with us. And as always, we'll help you size up the project and have something to demonstrate for it at the end. We'll help to continue to build things, and again, just as we have done in the past, there will be opportunities for teams to present their projects to peers. One thing that's new is we're going to have people run a trial and get more feedback. And one of the great things about this process has always been, even for people who are not the finalists, the work that they've done to refine their ideas over the year leaves them with enough material and refinement of their ideas that they can take those things and move forward with soliciting other avenues to get their ideas to fruition. So we will continue to do that. And then we'll have a competition here again in the spring. So thank you. There's one other person I'd like to thank who, without her, this 5 years would not have happened, and the future would not continue to happen. So please please join me in thanking Cornelia Bailey for all the work she's done in ringleading this effort. I masquerade as her boss, but really, all I have to do is watch her go. So yeah, Cornelia, it's always a privilege. So without further ado, I turn it back over to Cornelia.
All right, so the order for today is Refer Me, VidVelocity, and then Engage. So if the Refer Me team wants to come on up.
Hi, my name is Nucha Sarwang.
And I'm Dana Weiner from Chapin Hall.
And I'm Mike Steele from Chapin Hall.
And we make up this, the Refer Me team, and we're thrilled to be presenting Refer Me to you this afternoon. As a social worker with more than a decade of experience in the field, one of the biggest challenges that I've experienced is providing case management services to the children and families that I've worked with over the years. What I mean by case management is the process of making referrals that includes assessing the family's needs, identifying the appropriate, available, and accessible resources and services, and connecting families to those resources and services. To illustrate the challenges that I've experienced, I'd like to tell you about David and his family. David is a 9-month-old little boy who was identified with developmental delays, and my responsibility or my work with him was to engage his parents to support David's social development. He lives with his mom and dad and 3 older siblings. And on one of my home visits, his mom and dad told me that the apartment building that they lived in was being foreclosed. The owner of the building had told them a week ago that they had a month to move out. They had just about their income, their monthly income was just enough for rent, food, and other basics. So they weren't going to have enough money for a security deposit for a new place. So with 3 weeks, their plan was to either double up with a friend or a family member who had families of their own, or otherwise they would end up in a shelter or on the streets. That gave me, that pretty much left me with a window of opportunity to get their family of 6 into a new living situation that's appropriate, that's adequate, and affordable to them. About a week or to 2 weeks to have that services in place for them. So how would I go about identifying the services and resources that their family would need? Well, like most social workers, I keep my own list of resources I've used in the past. And that small listing of resources may not be quite the type of resources and services that the families need in my little homemade directory. There are also online and published directories that some organizations have put together, but the high cost and labor of updating and publishing pretty much results in directories that are unreliable and out of date. In addition, I could Google out the resources, and the results might look something like this, with about 39,800 results to sift through, and not knowing which one of those resources are up to date as well. Regardless of the method that I use to identify the resources, I would have to return to my office to make phone calls to the organizations that are offering services to make sure that those are appropriate for the family for David's family. So research tells us that the approximately 650,000 social workers across the country spend about, on average, 50% or more of their time on case management services. That's about 20 hours per week. Or more per week. So while social workers are sifting through all the potential resources and services out there, the windows of opportunity are closing for families like David's. So what's the solution? We propose to innovate existing and readily available mobile technology to enhance access and crowdsource the professionals and organizations that are listed and use the social service resource directories to maintain and update and grow the resource directories. Fortunately, in Illinois, we have the statewide provider database to give us a huge jump on making this solution a reality. And now Dana is going to tell us a little bit more about the SPD.
Hi. So the statewide provider database began as a pilot for the Cook County Juvenile Court Clinic in 2002. And then it was expanded for use statewide by the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services in 2004. So fast forward to 2008, we have a system ready for release that is launched for use by over 6,000 caseworkers and many other child-serving staff across the state. Those might include probation officers, teachers, school social workers. And as you can see, it has a very broad array of content, over 1,700 agencies operating over 4,000 programs that deliver over 23,000 services. And that includes services that the state contracts for, as well as services that the state doesn't contract for, so after-school programs or faith-based services. So the statewide provider database represents 3 key innovations in service directories. One is there are a team of people contracted for at Northwestern University who are constantly working to refresh and maintain these records. They're in contact with the providers on a regular rotating basis, and they're able to make updates as they come in from the field as well. So that means there's current data. Number 2, precise and realistic locations. So what this means is that traditionally, what we know about service locations is the central administrative office. But you can imagine, let's say you're looking for the Walgreens closest to you. If the address that comes up is the administrative office in Deerfield, that's not going to be helpful to you. And traditionally, that's what state agencies know about where their providers are located. In the statewide provider database, what we've done is geocode every location where a family gets a service. So that could be a church basement, it could be a library, it could be a school. We know exactly where those families need to go to get the service. And then thirdly, the records in the statewide provider database are extremely detailed. There's about 12 pages of detail that have to do with how you access services. And the reason why that is important is because the research tells us that we have a limited window of opportunity in which to intervene with a family, usually when a family is in crisis. If, during that window of opportunity, the family has a failed service attempt, let's say they didn't bring the right documentation with them or they showed up at a time that the office was closed, the window closes and we miss that opportunity. And sometimes we don't get another chance for a while. And you all know what this is like. If your tooth is hurting, going to the dentist is at the top of your list. If your tooth stops hurting, a lot of us would bump going to the dentist down the road a few months. So we really want to make sure we give families the information they need to have a first successful attempt at receiving services.
So the SPD is an innovative solution that might have helped me to identify and provide resources to David's family much more quickly. However, as a desktop application, I would still need to return to my office or to invest in a laptop with or a tablet with mobile connectivity of some type, because this is what it would look like on a phone screen. For nonprofit organizations, private practitioners like myself, and state agencies, investing in this kind of technology is really not a possibility, especially in the economic situation that our state is in currently. So the SPD also does not solve the heavy labor and financial burden placed on a cash-strapped state agency to update and maintain the tool they absolutely need for their work. So ReferMe builds on the innovation of the SPD by making it possible for professionals to access the rich source of information from the SPD on their smartphones, a device that most professionals already carry with them. ReferMe was designed with a simple and friendly user interface, offering comprehensive but not complicated search navigation that provides results with the vital information that professionals need to make decisions about the appropriate resources and services for the families while they're with the families themselves. So ReferMe allows the professionals to make immediate contact with the organizations or the programs that are providing the services, and to text the information to their clients cell phone with just taps on the screen. To ease the paperwork, ReferMe automatically emails a receipt of the referral that was text to the client as a way of documenting that services were provided. And finally, if the professional finds that a listing in ReferMe was not up to date or something had changed, by simply tapping on the screen, they can make a suggestion by sending an email directly to the database administrator for verification or update. So to demonstrate ReferMe, let's see what we can do to help David's family if they were in danger of homelessness now. After registering in ReferMe, I'm taken to a standard search page where I would enter in my location of where I want the search to be centered, the distance radius that I want the search to incorporate, select program types and service types. So for David's case, we're looking at 60647 as a zip code because we're wanting to do a larger search for organizations. We picked 3 miles in the radius and non-clinical program type because within that program type, there is a service type that's called Housing Search Assistance. We submit our search, and ReferMe pulls up information from the SPD with all service types that are for Housing Search Assistance. And we see right at the very top there is Supportive Housing Family Program, which looks very interesting. For me as a social worker looking for services, this would be one that I would want to investigate further. And by clicking on it, we get the more detailed information about that organization and the programs. First, at the top of the listing, La Casa Norte, the location and a map comes up along with a website and a phone number. If we scroll down, we get more specific information about the actual program itself, hours of operation. But for me, what's most interesting here is that they're accepting new clients, and the program is free. The services are free. But a little bit confusing is this idea that there's a waiting list that varies. So I would want to be calling the organization to find out more about what that means. Once we've identified this organization as an appropriate one, we can immediately text it to our client, and this is what they would get. Basic contact information. We would receive a receipt and make our suggestions if there were any changes that needs to be made. I would have liked to share with you what happens with David and what happens later on for our next steps. Sorry, we're out of time.
Should I speak to next steps quickly? No? Yes, super quickly. So Chapin Hall is to be the continuing home of the ReferMe app, and we work in close partnership with the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, represented here today by Larry Small. So we have institutional commitment from these 2 organizations to continue this work. That means continuing to refine the technology. That means piloting and implementation in multiple subregions of DCFS offices. It also means, because at Chapin Hall we have the capacity to evaluate, that we can continue to monitor the impact of an implementation of an app like this on service utilization and child and family outcomes. Thank you.
I have a question. How do you decide if the app brings up multiple possibilities for the user? You know, in this case, the housing. You know, like what if there were multiple agencies they could turn to? Would you refer one or many? Who would do the legwork?
So we have some practice with how this plays out with the use of the statewide provider database. And the way we've built this app is so that the offerings are sorted by distance from the family, so we have the option of picking the closest one. But we also have all of that other information that may point us in one direction or another. For instance, one program might be able to take children, male and female children, and something might be a better fit for that family. So it is meant, though, for the social worker to be kind of the filter through which those things, but you could send as many as you wanted to a client.
Yeah, the SPD, is that a documented database that is updated and you would get that updated database as it's updated? Is that current?
Yeah, so the statewide provider database is currently in operation at DCFS, and it is, as I described, currently being updated all the time. Because DCFS works closely with Chapin Hall, we actually receive a regular copy of the updated database because we have data feeds with DCFS to do a lot of other monitoring and reporting activities. So that link is already built in to Chapin Hall.
And I think it's important to add that the Refer Me would sit on top of an API so that any changes that are made to the state provider database itself will update for both SPD being used on a web page, on a desktop, as well as on the mobile device.
I'm familiar with a couple of faith-based operations relative to SPD. How do they gain into that system, and is that an option for them to solicit outside of the SPD if they have a faith-based program?
Meaning, how do they get their listing into the statewide provider database? So SPD uses a number of different strategies to get providers in there, but anybody who wants to be listed, I mean, they'll have to go through an interview process where all the information is verified, but there's no there's no limit to who can be in there. So there are many faith-based organizations, but if you know of some that you want to send our way, just let me know.
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. Are you just using their database, or are you adding to their database for your product?
So it's a little bit of both. And Nucha can explain kind of the crowdsourcing piece, that this broadens the universe of sources of data updates, but because that is currently a robust source of information that doesn't right now have a handheld mobile way to access it, we're building upon that, but creating another pathway through which to update the information.
We've talked about a later iteration of Refer Me where right now the only thing that's possible from the user end is to make a suggestion to an edit. But in a later iteration, we're thinking that it would be possible for a professional who runs into a faith-based organization that's been very helpful for the family to be able to send that information to the SPD, the database administrator, and have them then contact that organization so that their information can be added into the database. So that the sourcing will come from a number of different places. The organization themselves can also, start that process.
Yeah, I mean, one of the ways we've been thinking about this is this turns all these cell phones into sensors. And they go out in the world, and both providers and caseworkers are suddenly feeding information into the DCFS team. Whereas now they have to reach out on a regular schedule. So it'll make the database much more robust, much faster.
I'm thinking that could be very helpful to DCFS in a time of, where the state budget is not in good shape, if there even is a state budget. But yeah, I hate to ask that question, but how dependent are you in your app, and it's, testing it and refining it on, DCFS funding, which you don't have control over?
That's an interesting question. What? DCFS is answering.
DCFS now also. So DHS is also using it, HFS is also using it. So sister agencies are using it, and it's part of the governor's plan for the managed care rollout throughout the state. So
It's somewhat protected.
Yeah. So it's constantly being added and updated. In fact, there's now more staff, in addition to Northwestern staff, you now have staff that were employed by HFS and DHS that work with us sort of hand in hand. Sorry, I'm just pulling this up.
Great.
And the other way to think about this app, too, is the slide that Nucha put up about how 50% of caseworker time is taken up by this task. If you think about that, being able to take that 50% and make it 30% is a huge win for state agencies in a time when they have very limited budgets. And likewise, for the SPD team, being able to prioritize what parts they verify will be a force multiplier in terms of their productivity.
There was a question from the audience. Yes. Thanks for your presentation today. I was just wondering if there's any reason that the families can't access this app and start looking on their own.
So we've been pursuing models that are based on kind of working with the person who's in the helping profession, but I think you're right. I think you could envision an evolution of the system where families could be trained to just search themselves. I mean, it's pretty intuitive. I don't even know that they would need to be trained, but you might need to orient people to how the information needs to be accessed. Yeah.
So I imagine that one of the things that social workers out in the field bring to add value to this process, in addition to the connecting people or listening to resources, is you have some knowledge of, at least for some things, which resources are really good to work with and which ones are sort of a bust for certain kinds of families or situations. And I'm wondering if you've thought at all about being able to incorporate that sort of qualitative knowledge. I mean, I know it's a slippery slope there, but incorporating that in the crowdsourcing aspect of this.
Well, in my other hat as a researcher and evaluator, I've thought a lot about how to add a quality component to a directory like this. Really, I think kind of the holy grail is using outcome data to understand which providers actually get better outcomes for families, whether that's housing stability or mental health or well-being. And I think that's on the horizon, being able to do that, especially when we think about an implementation in conjunction with HFS and Medicaid managed care, where we'll have a good understanding of what families receive and then how they're doing. As an evaluator, that's what I would want to see, because I know people have a lot of feelings about agencies, and we haven't. In a very early version, we had a wiki kind of ability for people to comment, but there were complications with that.
Thanks so much, you guys.
Sure, thank you.
Great, next up, we'll hear from VidVelocity.
Hello everyone, my name is Patrick Kelly and this is my partner Brian Ritz. And today we're going to present to you our app VidVelocity. First I want to take an opportunity to thank University of Chicago as well as the App Challenge, and in particular Cornelia and Fritz, our development lead, and our two development interns, Eric and Evan in the back. They've put a ton of hard work into this and some really high quality work that we'll present to you guys today. So today we really want to address 5 different questions. What problem does VidVelocity address? How does VidVelocity solve that problem? Who's our market? What's our commercial plan? And what are our next steps? So starting with, what problem does VidVelocity address? First, I want to take a quick step back and talk about the game of baseball. So the game of baseball is actually pretty complicated and there's a lot of details, but what's important to know for the purposes of this app and this presentation is that at the focal point of this game is the pitcher. Every single play within the game of baseball, a pitcher throws a baseball, which is a small leather ball, to a catcher. And the objective of the pitcher is to throw that ball past a batter so that the batter is not able to hit it. And one of the most effective ways to do this is by throwing the ball very fast. Which gets us to the slide here, which is that baseball pitchers want to throw the ball faster. And that's at every level of the game. All the way from pee-wee to professional baseball pitchers, every single pitcher wants to increase the velocity of their pitch. Another way of saying this is that a baseball pitcher's velocity is the most objective way to measure their success. However, measuring pitch speed is extremely expensive. So these are 3 examples that really show the spectrum of what's considered the standard technology to measure the speed of a baseball pitch. Anywhere from $300 up to $1,200, there's radar gun technology where you sit behind the plate, you can gun the speed, and it'll read out the speed of the baseball pitch. It's a very expensive option. And secondly, there are solutions that exist today that are ineffective. Coincidentally, a lot of these are apps, but these refer, or rather are primarily reliant on what we've called tap-tap technology. So it requires the user to tap when the pitcher releases the ball, and then tap again when the catcher catches it. And as you can probably imagine and assume, and the reviews of these apps reflect, it's extremely inaccurate. It's not good. It's simply a solution because nothing else exists. And these are interesting problems, but despite the fact that there are solutions that are both ineffective and expensive, there actually are no solutions that really get at the foundation of why you would want to measure velocity in the first place, which is so that you can throw the ball faster and improve your performance. So there is no solution that records your velocity and ties it to a video of your pitching mechanics and your pitching form. And that brings us to VidVelocity, and Brian will explain a little bit about our solution.
So VidVelocity provides baseball and softball players with the means to capture and review their baseball pitch speeds and associated pitch videos as well. It uses modern computer vision and machine learning algorithms to track the baseball across frames and link the speed of the baseball to the pitcher's mechanics, or form, the video of how they move when they throw the baseball. It also does this in all one seamless interface that the user can then bring up. As you can see here, they bring up a video of their pitch, and right on that video, they can see how fast the ball and when they ran that pitch. And so it gives it immediate advanced feedback to them that they can then use to improve for the next game and the next game improve on. So Patrick and I were both master's students at the U Chicago here at the Masters in Analytics program. And this started as part of our capstone project. It is like our capstone thesis where we spent 9 months honing the algorithm that tracks the baseball across the video. We spent 3 full days capturing over 1,000 videos of pitches from 30 miles an hour all the way up to 100 miles an hour. And we did this in order to be able to teach our computer program what a 90-mile-an-hour pitch looks like as opposed to a 70-mile-an-hour pitch, what it visually looks like when you see it. And so that was a lot of work going out to capture all of those videos the ball was traveling, but the end result was good. We have our error rates up here, and the capstone algorithm that we used, that we presented in our capstone presentation, that was actually accurate within 1.77 miles per hour accuracy. As part of the app challenge, we had to take that algorithm that we made in our capstone project, and we had to take that and put it into a computer language that is applicable for the iPhone. And so that was a tall task. Our 2 interns, Eric and Evan, did a fantastic job of taking what took us 9 months to do, and basically condensing it down to 10 weeks to get it done. They did a fantastic job, exceeded our expectations. And that's still an ongoing process. We're still tuning it, we're still training that algorithm on the actual phone. So right now it's on the phone, accurate within 3 miles an hour, but we fully intend, we know exactly how to make it 1.77 miles an hour accurate right now, and that's our plan with probably another month of development to get to that point. And our goal is even further, as you see down here, our goal is to eventually get to 1 mile an hour. We're optimistic that we can do that in the future as well. So Patrick's about to take you through a demo, but just before he does that, I want to level set on where the user will stand when he or she is using this app. And we decided to have the user stand in these shaded areas here. And the reason we did that was when we were talking to potential users, the big thing we heard is that they want to connect the speed of the pitch with the video of the pitch. So we asked them, well, where do you stand? What angle do you stand when you usually take your videos? People take videos right now. And overwhelmingly, they stand in these areas, in these shaded areas here. So we honed our algorithm to work best from those areas, and right now we ask that the user stands in those areas. And so once they position themselves in one of these areas, Patrick's going to take you through how the user would then capture the speed of the pitch and the video of the pitch.
Just bear with me here for a second. I'm going to connect my phone and show you my screen as we take you through a demo. And this demo is going to require a bit of creativity on your side. We are not outside, and Brian is not pitching, but we're going to pretend like he is for parts of this demo. So as Brian mentioned, pretend as if we are in the position that was just demonstrated by Brian. So I will be the app user, and Brian will be the pitcher. So I will open up the app, and the tutorial page pops up, and just really quickly, there are really 3 elements to this process. 1 is calibrating the position, 2 is capturing the video of the pitch, and then 3 is reviewing the speeds and the videos of the pitches. The first thing you have to do is calibrate the distance, and this is important because the algorithm needs to know how far away the camera is from, there you guys all are, how far the camera is from the pitcher. And rather than having putting that task on the user, we want that task to be on the app. So that simply requires you to take a picture from where you are. So Brian, again, is the pitcher, and I'm going to capture this picture here. Yeah. And after I take that picture, all I need to do is line up this line with my pitcher and this line with my catcher. We'll assume that the catcher is over here. And then you can gut check that this distance is correct. In the bottom left corner, you can see 61.7 feet. And then you can move forward, and your distance has been calibrated. So now from this position, you can take as many videos of pitches as you would like. So I'll click Start Capture. And as you can see, I'm back in my camera. And I place this square over the pitcher. and I can simply start to capture pitching videos by hitting this go button in the lower left-hand corner. So if Brian is pitching, now I just captured a video, and it typically doesn't crash, but you can capture several videos in a single session. And once you're done capturing all your videos, there's a tab on the bottom here to review your videos. And the way that this is organized is by outing. So you can see in the top here, we have an untitled outing with one pitch in it, which was the video that I just created. But for the sake of demo, I'm not going to review that pitch because it wasn't a real pitch. But rather, I'm going to review some pitches that Brian took, 2 pitches that he took on the 31st of May. And these 2 pitches were recorded at 52 miles an hour and 40 miles an hour. So I now have the pitch speeds from the videos that I took of him pitching. And not only that, but I can click on this 52-mile-an-hour pitch, see some stats that the user input. It was a fastball, it was a ball and not a strike, and if there's any other pitch results, I can put them there or other notes. And then I can actually review, well, I'm connected to a TV, there we go. I can actually review this pitch, and I can review it in real speed by just clicking play, or if I hold down the play button, I can actually review this in slow motion. And this is really important because the key value that the user is going to get out of this is really analyzing the throwing motion here versus a previous pitch, which was 12 mile an hour slower. So I want to ensure that I'm reviewing my pitches for the right reason. This is, can we get back up here? Sorry. So I'm gonna plug back into the computer. But if you can imagine that I would review multiple pitching videos and have multiple speeds to correlate with those, I can analyze the throwing form of different speeds. And if I threw 90 miles an hour and I threw 80 miles an hour, I can understand what I did differently between those 2 pitches. And this is a critical value add that is simply not available today for pitchers to help them improve.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the market now, who we picture using this. And the app really appeals to players, coaches, and parents. And we took the I-Core program. We are members of the I-Core program, which is a program that the Polsky Center puts on to validate your idea with users. And we interviewed over 30 people. We interviewed players, coaches, and parents. And this idea especially stood out to parents. Players like it, coaches like it as well. But I think that quote this quote in the middle here, I'd definitely be interested and willing to pay for an app that accurately measures pitch speed. That was from Brian Colley, who's dad of a 14-year-old pitcher in Cincinnati, Ohio. And to me, that quote, the willingness to pay really stands out that this could be a market that we can especially focus on. So in order to size this market, we looked at how many potential youth pitchers are there. Each pitcher most likely has a parent coming to the game. So how many pitchers are there? There's 1.6 million youth pitchers between 10 years old and 17 years old. And not only is there 1.6 million, but they're constantly churning. There's literally a new group of 10-year-olds, or a new group of T-ball players who start pitching every single year. So you get the constant churn in order to make our app sustainable.
So now let's talk a little bit about the commercial plan. So really what we want to do is sell this application on the App Store. And we actually want to sell it at a price that is indicative of the quality of the application. So all these other apps that as I referred to previously with the tap technology are typically priced either free, 99 cents, $1.99. We want to make sure that our price point is an indicator of the value and the technology that's within the app. And before the consumer even makes their decision, they know that this is a quality purchase that has serious technology underneath evaluating their pitches. And then secondly, as we build out more advanced features that are not currently in the demo that we showed you today, we also would like to consider a freemium model. So a free user would get all the basic features that I reviewed today, but as we build in advanced features for a more competitive pitcher, we'd like those to become available by paying a monthly subscription fee to get those premium features. So what are our next steps? Well, this has been quite a bit of a process for us, all the way from kind of the idea generation to starting on our capstone algorithm in July of 2015. We actually went through the UChicago Polsky Center I-Core program in October and November of last year, which is where we got a lot of our customer feedback and really honed in on our market and our idea. In December of 2015, we entered the second round of this app challenge, and we presented our capstone on our master's thesis in March of 2016, and we actually won our capstone presentation competition based on the algorithm alone. And then obviously June, as we are here today, presenting in the finals of the app challenge. What we really want to make sure that we're doing is continuing on the momentum of this. I mean, getting Fritz and Eric and Evan's help in developing this prototype has been immensely encouraging. They've done a wonderful job, and we really feel that we're at a pretty important point in the momentum of this application, and we want to carry that forward. So that means finalizing our accuracy improvements and getting a production-ready application in the App Store within the next 1 to 2 months, as well as marketing the products, starting with some of the baseball relationships that we have. Brian played in college, and getting early feedback from early adopters, and then going to pitching camps where hundreds or thousands of pitchers go to a single camp to showcase their abilities, and it gives us a single touch point where we can reach many, many potential users, as well as kind of traditional advertising as well. And then lastly, just continue to build out and develop some of the advanced features that would be in future builds of the model. So overall, we really do want to continue on the momentum that we have today. We're very excited about the work that we as a team have been able to accomplish, and looking forward to the future. Thank you.
Couple of things. While I agree that pitching speed is important, I think one of the elements of this is at the appropriate age. The IHSA is dealing with an issue right now relative to the pitch count and the safety and the increase in arm surgeries, the Tommy John surgeries. Can you just play a little bit into that safety relative to speed, Han?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only IHSAs, but Little League has pitch counts now. Almost every youth baseball organization has pitch counts that they keep pitchers on. So this is a great way to track pitches as well. So you can get pitch counts from this. There was a screen that Patrick showed on the demo. There's a pitch count there, as well as preventing injury by preventing bad form, because a lot of times injuries to pitchers occur when they don't have good mechanics and they're throwing incorrectly, and maybe they drop their elbow at a certain time. And using the video in this app to analyze that mechanics and make sure you're pitching the right way to prevent injury, that'd be huge as well in order to allow kids to successfully move on to the next level of not getting injured.
I have a follow-up question to that, because if one of the main markets that you're going to market to are parents, you could imagine that the pitch counts that organizations like IHSA put on pitch counts wouldn't apply when you're out on a field practicing your pitches with your friends, and your parent is timing you, and how this could get very addictive. Just one more, one more, and so what are you going to do to put some kind of recommendations or limits on this and protect the health of the kids? And what age is this for?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think that we're prescribing it to an age, but in terms of the app development, something like adding in recommendations or restrictions, or ultimately we can't stop people from pitching too much, but we can inform them with guidelines or why it matters to make sure that they don't overuse their arm. And adding something like this to the application would be very, very trivial relative to adding in this algorithm. And this, like Brian was mentioning before, actually could be a great medium for that. So we can say, hey, you just threw 10 pitches in 5 minutes. Take a 30-minute break and evaluate your pitches and review your images. So that definitely could be a component of the platform in terms of child safety and youth pitcher safety.
Who analyzes the form of the pitch? Is it the app, or I could imagine a coach would be, probably pretty good at doing that. I could imagine a lot of parents don't know, about the form.
Yeah, so it would be generally, it could be the coach, the player, or the parent. I think generally you hit on the coach would be the most informative, or know the most what he's looking for. I think the player would probably be second on that list. And there are a lot of parents who are very involved. They go to pitching lessons with their children as well. And so the parents, I think they'd like to see that too. As far as determining what the correct form is, I think that is definitely on our radar, is eventually making out that can actually track the where your arm movement is. And I've actually been talking with someone from the Innovation Exchange here who has experience using the same software that is used on crash test dummies when they crash cars into walls to analyze how their body moves. They take videos of that and they can track how each body part moves in the video. So we're looking at that as well, that kind of same paradigm of looking at how your body moves and determining, correlating that with injuries, let's say, or correlating that with velocity. That's definitely good to be down the road for us.
Are you able to download this information into a spreadsheet or send it to somebody?
That's not in our prototype, but the app is built in a way that can very easily be done. I mean, we kind of do that on the back end when we test and train the algorithm. So you could very, very reasonably kind of export it, email yourself some of the stats as well as maybe attach videos.
Want to give college recruitment, et cetera.
Yeah, and we didn't go in too much detail on our advanced features, but one of the things that we would like to get to is creating this platform to share videos. So not just between peers, but also a way for you to very easily connect to coaches and scouts. That's very much done today based on simply travel. Like a coach either comes to you or you go to them, which is extremely expensive, very time consuming, and if you're not a premier pitcher, you might not think it's worth it. There's tons and tons of barriers. But if you could just simply have a platform, thinking of Instagram or social media like platform to shoot a coach, hey, here's my 80-mile-an-hour pitch. You can review the slow motion video as well as see the stats that correspond with it. That's definitely on our future development plan as well.
Would this technology at all be able to be transformed for other sports?
Potentially for other sports, yeah. I think right now it's designed for the one angle that we showed. So something like tennis could work when you're standing off to the side of the court. We thought about that. Serve speed is big in tennis as well. It would really not be that much of a tweak to the algorithm to get it to use for tennis at all. The underlying algorithm that tracks the speed would be much the same. So that's potentially on the radar as well. I think we focused on baseball and softball because that's what I'm most familiar with, and it's a larger market than some of the other potential sports. So I think that's our first step, but there's no reason why we couldn't do that.
It might be a good market for the IHSA because they're going to start demanding pitch counts and who's tracking pitch counts. And coaches, by the way, just turning off the fifth inning with 50 pitches and making sure. So there may be some market within the IHSA to be able to be the outside manager to say at 120 pitches you're done, and the coaches simply lift them out. So the market could be there.
Yeah.
A lot of kids interested.
And that's a good point too, because you mentioned that parents might get overuse of players. What we've actually found talking to people is that a lot of times it's the coaches that are pressuring players because the coaches want to win. The players are invested, or the players and parents are invested in the player, and the coaches are pushing them sometimes past the limits and causing that injury.
Any questions from the audience?
Yeah.
I have a question about, in baseball, my understanding of baseball, I'm a fan of the game I used to play, is that the amount of movement of the pitch, the dance of the pitch, and the arc of the pitch between the pitcher's hand and the catcher's mitt is really important. It may almost be as important as velocity. So I was wondering, when you were developing your algorithm, if you took a look at measuring arc or movement or in conjunction with velocity, and if you did, how much more complicated is it to write an algorithm that factors in, the trajectory?
Yeah, that's a common piece of feedback that we get from people that are familiar with baseball or pitchers are familiar with the kind of mechanics and the importance of different pitches. And as you can imagine, we have the data today from the angle that we're taking it from, right? Which is that like a curveball is going to break a lot within the frame of reference that we have. And the technology that we're using would actually puts us in a really good position to analyze that. So again, definitely something that we've considered for further down, for further advanced development. And there's also kind of something there about side-to-side movement as well, which you would need another camera angle, which might be a different use case, right? But yes, I think that the future definitely holds some statistics on the amount of break that your ball has as well.
Thanks, you guys, so much.
Thank you.
All right. but not least, we have the Engage team.
Good afternoon. We're excited to talk to you about our program Engage today. We'll tell you about the problems we hope to fix, the current response, our proposed solution, and a demonstration of its basic functions, and our future directions. To help give context to our presentation today, I have a few helpers. So meet Rose. She is an 81-year-old woman who could be your neighbor, your parent, or maybe it's you in a few years. She has an active social life, but things are starting to get difficult for her. Then one day, she trips and falls while crossing the street. This scare makes her nervous to leave the house. She visits her doctor, who is also concerned about her, and prescribes her a course of physical therapy. Her insurance covers 10 weeks of rehabilitation with her therapist, enough time for Rose to get a bit stronger, but not strong enough to do without a cane. Rose becomes very sad and frustrated as she can no longer get to her book club with her best friends, and she must hire help to come to the house. Rose's healthcare team is worried about her too. Her therapist prints exercises for her to do at home, but worries Rose won't remember when or how to do them. Rose's doctor is also concerned about her decline. Unaware of the exercise program the therapist prescribed, he prints more handouts with different exercises. Rose's daughter, Ellen, lives in Maine. She's worried about her mom, too, and calls her regularly to check on her. Rose doesn't want her to worry, so she says everything is fine. Rose continues to spiral downward. And she and her daughter are soon forced to consider institutionalization and the social, financial, and quality of life costs this move brings. This frustrating scenario is very common for patients and providers, and we decided to take a closer look at the system to see what we could do to improve these patients' outcomes and their likelihood of remaining independent and in their home. So let's take a closer look at Rose's trajectory. Where is the system deficient? Well, first, physicians lack time and training to customize rehabilitation programs that could help seniors maintain function. Following an event like a fall, insurance-covered physical therapy programs are short-lived. 3, physical therapy exercises are confusing to do at home without guidance, and printed guides are easily lost. 4, there are no reminders to exercise. 5, the family and caregivers don't know what exercises have been recommended, so they're unable to help or support. Functional decline often leads to social isolation, and we lack a structure to keep frail elders connected and motivated. And finally, there's no way for healthcare providers to track these patients long-term to ensure that modifications to the program can be made. These deficits ultimately result in a long-term, rapid, and quick decline. So what are we really facing here? Let's take a look at the big picture. The U.S. is aging. The population of seniors is expected to more than double in the next few decades. By 2050, the population over 65 will be larger than the population under 18 for the first time. Meanwhile, the supply of elder care workers, like therapists and geriatricians, will lag sorely behind, unable to keep up with the growing demand. We must extend the impact of limited resources, support caregivers with better tools, and most importantly, empower seniors to be involved in their own care. So we propose Engage. Engage is an age-adapted technology that incorporates evidence-based physical rehabilitation programs developed, tested, and promoted by the National Institute on Aging. Engage has 3 target user groups. The first one is older adults, their caregivers and family and friends, and third, their therapists and doctors caring for them. Engage will provide older adults with simple exercises, reminders, motivation, and progress reports. Engage will help family and friends share progress reports and provide encouragement. And finally, Engage will allow healthcare providers to quickly send customized rehabilitation programs and share their progress reports to ensure safety and long-term improvement. So what kind of impact can a program like Engage really have? Well, just for fun, let's consider how Engage might alter the impact that falls has on our healthcare system. We spend about $65.5 billion per year in acute health care costs for falls alone in the U.S. This is a lot of money. A recent Cochrane review showed that similar home-based exercise programs were shown to reduce the incident rate of falls by a rate ratio of 0.68. This is a cost savings of over $20 billion per year. And these estimates don't factor in the potential gains physical activity can have on dementia, pain, arthritis, cardiovascular disease, other conditions that are highly prevalent among seniors. But we know what you're thinking. Older adults and technology don't mix. Well, we thought the same thing. Despite stereotypes, however, research suggests that older adults are quickly adopting new technology. In 2013, 60% of older adults were online and 27% owned a smartphone, a dramatic increase since 2000. In the 2014-15 year alone, there was an 8% increase in smartphone ownership. Older adults are also adopting tablets so much that the AARP designed their own iPad and apps for seniors. Literature suggests that older adults are more likely to adopt technology when it's adapted to them and their needs. And that's precisely what we're doing. Engage can be implemented into technology that older adults are already using, like their TV, iPads, and phones. Experts recommend that we follow a participatory design process with older adults. We've already undergone this process several times, as we've already interviewed over 40 users to date. And this has shaped our current functionality, as you can see from these quotes. So let's take a look at Engage's basic functions now. Engage has many potential applications, but let's reimagine Rose in her common scenario. Rose's therapist can use Engage to assign her a customized or preset rehabilitation program from a repository of exercises and choose the appropriate intensity. Options healthcare providers have told us they need.
Hi, Rose. Now that our sessions are done, I'd like you to use the Engage program we reviewed yesterday. You'll get exercise reminders and instructions for the balance program I recommend to help another fall. To start, I'm recommending a low-intensity program. We can adjust it later as needed.
Sounds fine.
How would you like to receive your reminders? As a phone call, an email, a text message, or a combination of those?
I like both, text and email.
Rose can also notify the rest of her care team to help support her and follow progress, an option older adults we interviewed asked us to include.
So, I'll ask your doctor and daughter to keep them informed of my recommendations and your progress. Anyone else? Maybe somebody to do the exercises with you?
Well, the woman I hired to help out would do these with me. My best friend Millie, who just moved to California, we talk every afternoon. Would she be able to do the exercises with me?
Great ideas. Yeah, we can send Millie the program so she can follow along.
In the future, we hope to build a repository of available programs and add gamified and virtual exercise experiences. Once Rose has been assigned a rehabilitation program, Engage automatically sends her reminders and pictures when it's time to exercise, a feature our interviewed users have emphasized as very important.
Okay, it says straightening leg, 10 times each leg. Okay, here goes.
Rose or her caregiver can simply click on the provided link to see the web page that sequentially walks her through each exercise in the program with instructions and videos. Rose then rates how difficult the exercise was. This rating system is tracked and recorded in her profile to help her provider decide whether to adjust the intensity. Future versions will automatically adjust the program intensity based on track difficulty. Rose and Ellen receive daily and weekly reports of how many assigned exercises were completed. And there's also a prompt for friends and family to send Rose some encouragement. Hi, Mom. I just saw you did some of your exercises today. Great job. How did they go?
Oh, fine. My caregiver helped me do a few this morning. I got that fun picture of my granddaughter, Lily. I'll be so happy if I get strong enough to play with her again.
Our older adults tell us that pictures of grandchildren are even more motivating than money. To combat social isolation, Rose added her best friend Millie to her team.
Hi, Millie. Let's do the exercises together. Then we can help each other. even though we're living so far apart?
It just takes one family or friend member on Rose's team to respond periodically with some encouragement to keep her feeling supported. Rose's performance summaries are also collected over time in her Engage profile. At her next clinic visit, her doctor is able to review her 1 month prior trajectory.
Hi Rose, it looks like the rehabilitation program is making it easier for you. Let's move you to a moderate intensity now. I'll send you an updated program. Great job.
So where do we go from here? We will use existing support from the NORC and my 5-year NIA K-23 Career Development Award to conduct a formal participatory design using existing community connections and collaborations. And we will use this process to edit and add new features based on user feedback. We will then trial the effectiveness of the program on reducing poor outcomes like frailty, loneliness, and healthcare utilization, and disseminate it in different settings, including the successful Aging and Frailty Evaluation Clinic, which I co-direct here at the University of Chicago, and other organizations with whom we have connections. We want to take an important moment to thank you, our other team members, who are the real reasons we have anything to show you today. So thank you. We're very grateful for your time and effort. In summary, it is our hope that Engage will prolong the independent lifespan of our seniors. Thank you, and we're happy to take any questions.
I was wondering if you have any evidence yet that Engage is leading to good outcomes for seniors, or?
That's a good question. We haven't piloted this program yet. We've really just been getting feedback from users on the functionality so far. So the next phase after after today will be to pilot test some of the actual interaction in the home setting to see if it works. People are actually doing exercise.
Though we've also shown prototypes and mock-ups at various stages. Two older adults, some of whom have already had experience with physical rehabilitation. Spoke to somebody in the past couple of weeks who had hip surgery in the last 6 months and fallen off for exercises, and he sort of really endorsed this as a big help in some of these functions.
So how will this product be distributed? Are you looking through rehab centers, through doctors, through?
That's a really great question, and something we're still considering now, and I'll also open this question up to other team members. But the potential application of this product is in a lot of care settings. And some that we've already been exploring are in actually physical therapy clinics. Another is through lay caregiver that are hired caregiver organizations that are already in the home with seniors and are required to be there for several hours a day throughout the week, having them work with older adults to guide and participate with their therapy. Certainly, the primary motivation of this app is my own clinic and my geriatric practice, where I run into this every single week, where I could be using this. So we have a lot of potential applications. Some of our own therapy colleagues have said that this would be useful following a hospitalization or following a rehabilitation course for following a stroke or knee replacement, et cetera. So there's a lot of other places where we could potentially apply it.
I will add, there's a big trend of helping people remain independent at home and an increase in home services. The business models for home services that help people remain independent at home keep a connection between the patient, the provider, and the caregiver. There's a large and expanding market for that. There has been some interest in that being able to test the Engage model with some of the home healthcare services that are centered through groups like Matter here in Chicago and other groups nationwide.
Who do you see will teach the older adults how to use the app? I totally agree that it's got to maintain independence for our older adults. It's hugely important. I also look at my parents who have all the ITs when they need it, they can't figure out how to use an app.
That's why we're taking a participatory design approach. We're not setting it up so that it takes weeks of lessons, but that they are actually people who are creating some of the design ideas so it works at a proper metaphor. We're also partnering with groups that have success in designing with elderly, like self-help, their touchscreen system to be able to empower people who are chronically ill and living at home with no social support went from 2.5 weeks to less than 2 hours. of training because of the participatory design methods that they used in order to work with those individuals and design a system that had appropriate human factors as well as metaphors that made sense to them. There are other models and partnerships that we're looking for. Really, this is a platform as much as it is a product, so that we can have an engaged system that could be used and learned on a device itself, but it can be as simple as a phone call, getting a reminder on a landline that speaks to you and says it's time for your exercises. They can pick up a picture on their iPhone or even on their TV through partnerships like Self-Help or Independent and see that come through live. So it's really technologically agnostic, and we meet people where they are with what technologies they're using that they're comfortable with.
Who's making those phone calls? You say like Self-Help will be making the phone calls, right?
It's an automated system that, and that's what our Cornelia and team helped piloted for us, was using these reminders and notifications and alerts for helping people remind them when to exercise, prompted instructions, and Google Voice.
So we did pilot earlier. We can do a landline phone call too, or cell phone call.
That aside, the role of the caregiver, which we said before, is a big one. So we're building in the capacity for the caregiver to take an active role in helping the older adult actually use this to best effect.
Absolutely. I think that's a huge point, is that a lot of these times will be social interaction between family members, and how people get trained will be that maybe an adult daughter and a mother going to a physician's office at the same time. And it's really being cognizant about that. It's a social network of people that are helping support this. It's not just one individual at the end of the day too. So there are capabilities that adult daughter who's used to using things like spreadsheets and Facebook may want to be able to do that the older adult parent doesn't, and we're designing for that.
And I'll also say in the interviews that we've already conducted in our research plan to come, I mean, each of the various user groups that we've discussed, have expressed their preference for the interaction with the platform. So a physician who's on the clock, 15-minute session, needs something, 2-3 clicks, set a basic program, and because that's all the time there is, our physical therapist population would, expresses interest in much more customizability, instead of using preset programs, as well as sort of caregiver and older adult preferences, that are all built in and can be customized. Some of our older adults say the social part is the motivator. It's great having that. Others say, no, that's something private, but boy, the progress reports would be what I want to do. And so sort of building on that flexibility as we build out is really big from the input of the end users.
Any questions from the audience?
Is there any thoughts of, I see about a lot of the elderly go to TV, and if there's any thoughts of some, audio element to this that might
Yeah,
be
the
another option?
NIA resource that we're tapping here is complete with videos, so you can actually watch and listen to someone demonstrate and do the exercise with another elder, and you can follow along. No reading required.
Is it going to be free or charge, or
Yeah, it's going to piggyback on your comments about who's using it. And you want to jump in here too. That our goal is that for the older adult, this is not a costly service. This is something that's provided for them. So if there was a commercial dream we would have, it would be to have insurance companies or ACOs or hospitals or somebody investing in this product, essentially making it available and required use to be used by the physical therapist, the geriatrician, and so on. That would cover the cost of the older adult.
Yeah, most realistically, it's more of a B2B2C business model.